That's all I can say.
God bless Curry.
Yeah.
And
hello and welcome to Let's Drone Out. Any views expressed by any guest on the show are personal and may not reflect the views of Let's Drone Out or any participant of the show. And tonight we are joined by Andrew / Frank.
Good evening.
We are joined by the voice of Doom.
What up?
And we are joined by our old school friend, Bruce Edward Cliff Richards. Everyone's lovable Moni Tony.
Bonjour.
And my personal favourite, Curry Kitten.
hello.
And I'm Brighton till I fly, Jack.
Best friend.
Yeah. And that's my underpants gnome. Wave underpants gnome. He's well trained.
So, what's on
Andrew
the show
Frank?
tonight?
So we've got a couple of guests on tonight. So Dom and Ed, thank you for coming on. I think because Ed has been going undercover and infiltrating the CAA, while he's still got everything in his head, let's start pulling it out. I think would make sense. Where
Is
have
he
you been today?
dyslexic?
Tone, you need to light two up.
Yeah,
baby.
that's a good point. Like I set the secret mission up for Jack and Tony, and they both wussed out, but Ed stood up and went through with it.
I was busy wanking.
I was the one stupid enough to admit I was dyslexic. That was.
Oh,
What?
0, double. What have you done, 0? You're getting 2 for that. Thank you.
Oh, here we go. What's going on? Oh.
Oh! I need to.
It's going to be a while. I'm scared of these now. My hole in my thumb is.
Well, no,
Okay.
it's the big flary ones that are the ones to worry
Yeah,
about.
these ones all right. Thank you for your $10 donation,
Thank you.
0 FBV.
How
Thank you
do
very much.
I see that chat?
I will post you the link right now.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. There you go. There's your little shout out and your sparkles. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Yo. So you went deep behind enemy lines. The CAA could have been worse. Could have been Ofcom because VTX frequencies and B, they allow this show to be aired.
Well, how do you know I didn't go to Ofcom?
Exactly. What was the situation? What was CA doing that you had to infiltrate and bring back this information for us?
Well, rather disappointingly, it wasn't actually the CAA, which I was really gutted about because I was hoping to sort of get voice of concern straight to the people. But who I did sit with were the designers of the system that is going to be used for all the RC hobby flyers and professional flyers to register come November. So it was an interesting experience. They wanted design feedback basically. So they're a creative agency. They're designing the system. They want to check that their system methodology is going to work all right and is going to fly with a bunch of angry pilots that are not really happy about the state of affairs.
Because I managed to get hold of this and pass this over to you because this was I went and spoke to them in December just before the UK drone show, and back then they were like, we've been told we have to build a thing. What should it look like? What does it need to do? Who are you people? What is this? And it was very much open and kind of asking kind of who flies drones, what do they do, all that kind of thing. And it sounds like because they said they built a prototype.
Yeah, that's well, prototype in this sense is a non-functioning page on an iPhone, just sort of showing how things might get laid out, and it was very government style at the moment. Oh no. What's Jack's underpants gnome doing? Yeah, so it was basically a non-functioning web page just to sort of show what sort of questions are going to get asked and how it's going to look. And at the moment, it looks like a very similar sort of thing to how you MOT your car. It's lists, blocks of text, actions, do your thing.
I suppose one of the crucial questions is, does it have anything silly like what is your make of drone and what's its serial number?
Well, the exact content is still being debated, and that was part of what today was about. Go on, sorry, Jack.
Was there any hot button ones like, are you a terrorist? And are you sure? And have you ever felt the need to hurt you or endanger anyone? And
no, I think what I saw was
do you have a beard?
Yeah,
Yeah.
potentially. Now, what I saw was the questions they've got there so far sort of represented people that are definitely thinking about it and definitely trying to understand their audience, but they weren't quite there yet with their understanding. There were a few issues on there. Difficult to know where to start because there's quite a lot involved. But one of the big things I picked up was that, obviously all hobby flyers are going to have to do this come November, regardless if you're flying anything over 250 grams. And there's some in the community that have, for example, BMFA A and B certificates, or have PFCO, 3 qualifications that I listed to them that sort of go above and beyond the questions that they are asking. So I was asking them, are they working with the CAA on the PFCO stuff to actually say, look, here's my registration number. This proves that I know what's going on, so I don't need to worry, or I'm just rush me through the system as quickly as possible. And the same with the BMFA as well. They hadn't really thought about that. They are working with the CAA and the BMFA, obviously, but as a step to sort of expedite the process for someone that is proven to be competent with model flying, that wasn't there. So it was quite an interesting experience to put that sort of feedback in.
Because that was definitely an important thing that they were focusing on. Sort of when I was there was, everyone was going, this registration thing isn't going to help. It's a bit daft. And they're like, yes, we know, but it's been put into law. It's been what we're being paid to do. So we're doing that. But what it does mean is it makes everyone go through this competency test where we'll get to ask people questions and make sure that they know some things and just kind of educate people. And they were seeing it as this kind of like, yeah, it's a bit daft, but it makes sure that everyone is educated.
I'm reading off the same page.
Yeah.
It does strike me though that they're overthinking it a bit. If you take the question part out of it and we're saying, okay, the pilots need to be registered, then it's kind of like name, address, telephone number. Do you have a drone over 250 grams? Yes. That's the registration part, and the rest of it is deciding on the sort of competency questions, which I assume would be something a little bit like DJI does about how far do you have to be away from a person or a house, and how high can you fly, and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, correct. That's exactly what it is. It is split into 2 different sections, if you like. But I think the aim, or what I was trying to get across to them, was that there's going to be a good section of the community that you're going to risk patronising, and maybe should take steps to avoid that. So if someone does have a level of provable competency at the registration step, which comes first, give them a chance to put their qualifications in and have them verified either on a BMFA server or on a CAA server. If that can be recognised, then they can skip past the test. We've got another.
Somebody wants to see Tony set fire in his head.
Right.
You bastard.
I can already hear the fire alarms go off.
I know.
The hungry Horace. Right. I'm moving stuff because...
Tony,
hungry Horace, we will burn him.
Right. How do we do this?
away from your face.
Myself?
Away from your thumb.
And away
Yeah.
At least he's not wearing a flammable hat this time.
Yeah.
There you go, hungry. All right,
Thank you very much.
Jesus Christ. Why do I do
Can we
this?
one day sort out PayPal and buy Zencaster? It's just an idea.
Oh my god, that might set fire to my laptop.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
I don't like the preferential treatment. I'm sorry.
What a big one, Tony.
we'll leave him up on the video, but let's carry on. Where were we?
Someone
Yeah.
get him some goggles.
So I've just opened the chat, and the responses in the chat are incredibly typical of what I was trying to explain to the designers this afternoon. Romulus King, your response is going to be so typical of many people out there. It's that sort of scrap it doesn't work, what's the point? Absolutely, that is going to be the user experience, and I was trying to get across to them that in their design, there's a legal requirement to obviously to deliver this design, so try and do your best not to sort of strike a match to people that know what they're doing. Try and make their life a bit easier.
But so hopefully they can sort of, at least for like PFCO stuff, because I mean, I think there'd probably be some arguments about FPV UK versus BMFA versus how all that kind of thing works.
Yeah.
And like the BMFA thing, the A sets and B sets are generally kind of an idea of trust for the insurance purposes and for the club fields and events generally. The achievement scheme.
They might find a modification to the A set and B set to include a bit of theory about best practice for flying.
But at least at the moment, someone who's had an A cert for 30 years, that doesn't necessarily show that they've got the very latest understanding of what the latest exemptions and rules are.
No.
Would be my thought. But at least the PFCO, that should be kept, because that's fairly regular. That's updated, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it is, and any PFCO holder is going to have to be updating the manual soon anyway. So there's going to be a raft of registrations from the professional guys going in. So it's quite typical of government systems at the moment that we may not have information filtering through. Although having said that, Government Gateway is starting to get their act together like that. I just want to pick up on a question that Bloods FPV put. So he's asking, so will it be a criminal offence to fly over 250 gram without registration, or just a civil offence? So this isn't a question I asked, but if any opinion I might have on that is probably going to be speculation. However, that being said, any flying that's outside of current regulations is a criminal offence. So flying across Gatwick, for example, is a criminal offence. So it'll be interesting to see whether flying over 250 grams lands you in a civil court or a criminal court. But yeah, good question, and I think we could probably reach out to the CAA on that one, see what they say.
Well, because the 250 gram bit of ruling was an amendment to the ANO, their air navigation order, and that's enforced by a particular bit of legislation that says that whatever the CAA puts in the ANO is essentially law.
Yeah.
So I think I expect that the 250 gram rule is essentially the same as flying unsafe, and it would all come under that same realm of law.
Yeah, I would err on the side of it's probably going to be a criminal offence too, but we shall see what see how severe the consequences are. I think they're still working a lot of things out, Bloods. I don't know. I think we're going to get a whole lot of information come September time about what's coming up in November. So watch this space.
Yeah, I just like the idea of like all these guys sitting in jail together. One's for murder, the other's armed robbery. The third one, I did a power loop over a tree and someone saw me.
Yeah.
And the other thing on the 250 gram rule, which Lurgy just put in there, are there any rules for under 250 grams? Yes. Like every rule apart from the registration still applies under 250 grams come November. There's that's the only difference at 250 grams is registration.
Yeah, it's not a license to then go fly over Gatwick to have sub 250. That definitely will upset things.
But yeah, it's so the competency test that at the moment at least is everyone is going to have to do, whether or not they're flying a tiny whoop or a professional with a Matrice 800 or whatever it is. Like did you get to see any of those questions, or is it just like there's a box where you'll type in the answer to the question that we ask you?
Yeah, it was very much user testing. I was very much a guinea pig in a cage. They were throwing scenarios at me. My whole task was, could I fly safely? To which I asked, fly what? And with my arms, no, I kept a sort of a bit of humor about it, but
I can imagine the testing on that answer being, if you said yes, then we're not letting you through. If you say no, we're not letting you through. But if you say it depends, we'll consider it.
Yeah, I don't think they're allowing any grey areas. I think it's gonna be one way or another. So what they did say to me was that any of the content that I saw during the testing wasn't final. There's no money being talked about at the moment. They just kind of they spent a long time expressing that this is not the system, these are not the questions, but these may be the sort of questions you're going to get asked. And I looked at it and went, those are exactly the sort of questions that Whitehall's given you, isn't it? Sort of a little grin across the face. I'm like, okay. And the sentiment I got was from the designers that I think they recognized a sort of a level of sympathy with the hobbyists, and I was quite encouraged by one of the chaps there. That, in fact, your contact, Andrew, he knew the nuance between quadcopter and drone, but that nuance took the rest of the room. There were 4 other people in the room by surprise, and that I found a bit weird. So I explained to them, as far as our community is concerned, we would class a drone as something with navigational aid, GPS driven. And I used the example of military drones. So from the tiny little single prop wing, fly it across enemy lines, see where the enemy is. To that's a drone. But why is a small radio controlled airplane not called a drone and it's called an RC plane? I said that definition, that distinction is the same in FPV world as well. Quadcopter is just a bunch of 4 blades being held in the sky by the pilot skill. It's not got any nav aids. You cannot pre-program it to go A to B unless you put a brain in there. And there was that nuance. One person knew, 4 people didn't. And whilst they're the design agency, they were certainly briefed by the CAA. So I was a bit worried about that maybe the representation hadn't quite gotten through in the consultation process, even though I'm sure a lot of us would have written something to that effect.
Yeah, I mean, if you go through the numbers on the consultation document, is that more people were drone hobbyists than model aircraft pilots. So that's kind of I imagine there's quite a lot there. But yeah, it's a bit hard to tell kind of who plays what role in all of this, because there's definitely a lot of grey areas in terms of what kind of part of the body of all these different bodies of the CAA, DFT, so the Department for Transport. There's the BJSS who do the actual database, and then there's there's a kind of design company, sort of more concept design company who work with BJSS. There's all these different people, and there's a lot of people wearing hats in both camps and kind of trying to take the information from one camp to the other camp. I think, and it is a big and complex process, and they've got until October is when the legislation says this will be running in October. Everyone must be registered by November. So yeah, they've not got very much time.
They've not got enough time. I just want to pick up on a comment in the chat. So forgive me if I mispronounce this. Did a Citalos 4 Diddy 4? Diddy 4. They've written, if they make it too silly, people simply won't bother. This was a view I expressed, and the whole question of patronizing the audience. I kind of gave them a flavor of the racing world and the freestyle world, and how much skill is involved, and then but also not to patronize licensed people as well either. There's going to be people on this registration process that have spent thousands getting to a point where they're professionally certified so they can get insurance to then go and capture footage, surveys, or what have you. Someone with that experience who's got a license to fly over London, for example, or say license, has got permission to fly over London, which takes months and months and months to get. They're then met with a thing online asking them dumb questions about how far away from a building do you need to be to get the okay to register their drone. There was a little light bulb that went on at that moment. So their intentions are good, Diddy, for sure. The designers recognise that the hobby world is far more competent than perhaps the Whitehall counterparts. That's my words, not theirs.
Yeah.
Not all views shared by the CAA are in agreement with LDO.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So is that what the sorts of questions it was then? It's like how far away do you have to be from a building, and then you have to type in 50 meters or whatever.
I didn't even get to answer that question. I I was so worried about that. I started reading the drone code on the train on the way up, and and you know, I was like, I know this stuff, and then I started questioning whether I knew this stuff, and then would I be forever labelled as an idiot for answering a question wrong? And when it came to registration time, there'd just be this automatic denied, when it came to November. But no, I never even got to that point. It was very much the is this system going to work for everyone? And in its current state, it's not even at beta stage. It's not even at beta stage. There's going to be a public beta in September.
Okay.
So there's going to be links flying around in September for this thing. It's going to be an opportunity for everyone to feedback onto the system itself. I had a couple of reservations. Whilst they are working with the BMFA and the CAA with ideas like tying up, they said they haven't got the brief or the budget to put that as a feature straight away. And I pointed out to them that once they've got everyone registered, what's the point in then having that feature later on down the line? The horse is bolted. People would have already done it, and you would have already upset people. Yeah, it was quite.
What I'm going to love is all those people who have bought quads that ages ago that don't work, and then they're like, well, no need to register it, and then say something happens and their place does get raided. Are they going to start trying to prosecute them because they're unregistered and they're like, it doesn't work? And like, what constitutes owning a drone?
It's not going to be owning, it's going to be flying.
I don't that sort of mentality a little bit does worry me a bit, Jack, because it's assuming that if an incident happens, then it's assuming that houses are going to start getting raided. And that if we talk like that and put that idea into people's heads, we're probably going to be giving the wrong picture entirely. We did that episode on resources a little while back. It's on a side note, I responded to an information request from the Gatwick police. The questionnaire went out. I'm sure some people have seen it. I both phoned up, left a message, and emailed the PC in question saying, hi, I'm here if you've got any questions, just about, because one of her questions was, do you have a license to fly? And I was like, oh man, you guys need some help. So and for anyone that may be outside of the UK, nobody in the UK needs licenses to fly. We just need to be either in the right place, adhering to the right rules, or if you're working professionally, you just need a certificate of competency. Can someone help me out with speaking? From the CAA. So it was worrying that a police questionnaire had that question on it.
Do you know the reason why there's no licenses?
No, tell us.
There's a rule, globally a rule, that if you have a license for flying, then you need to have a regular medical examination, and they really don't want to have to deal with that. because that would be silly. Because then all of a sudden you've got people who are like, you're colorblind, you can't fly professionally. It's like, well, hold on. It's like that's not a problem.
This would wipe out half of the Sandals Brigade on the old and tulsa planes and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm down for it if there's a prostate examination so that Tony can go first.
Do you want to live stream Tony's prostate exam? Is that
Yeah. Well,
That
what
is definitely a
main
pay
thing-
per view.
Is that going to
Be
be
eye
Right,
contact
right.
at all times.
That's 50 quid in the chat.
Is that going to be the next live streaming bug that Tony starts after his Because have you heard this that
Colonoscopy.
after Tony's live streaming of household chores, that's now become a whole genre of live streaming. That's
I need
exploded.
to get back to it, don't I?
Yeah, you were way ahead of the curve. on
Banned
that
in
one.
China. It's already banned in
I
China.
might watch up tonight. Anyone want to watch?
I'm tempted to start a mukbang.
It's like was that AMSR where people are whispering? Right,
Yeah,
it's kind
I
of
do
a
that to Andy RC.
Tony's version of that. It's just very gently washing up.
Yeah, that's nice. So yeah, it sounds like they've started thinking about putting something together, but it doesn't sound like they've made. I mean, it's only been a month, I guess, but it
Yeah.
doesn't sound like they've made a huge step forward.
Well, for anyone who's into web design, they're at a stage called wireframing, which is just plotting it out and the logic and how it works. And I was impressed with their desire to make it good. So what they're building at the moment is actually a case to the CAA to break government standards on web design, which quite frankly is good. Now there's some aspects of the government website which are brilliant. So paying your car tax is a lot easier than it was 5 years ago.
Oh my word! Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I just got an £80 fine for not paying mine for a month.
You idiot.
Really?
Yeah, because I moved and forgot to tell them, and they were sending me reminders, and I was just like, "Well, whatever."
Where did you move from, Tony?
Yeah.
Shut up. Anyway, that's another 80
Sofa.
quid. Another 80 quid. Fucking hell.
So even if nothing else comes out of drone registration, then they're using it as an opportunity to maybe change how government websites work.
Yeah, they're actually because they're a commercial design agency. They live in the same world that we do. They're not institutionalized, so they're desperately building a case to tell the government to go and do one on how it should be done, basically. And I had a slightly anarchic approach when I was in there. I took great delight in telling them that just how angry everyone's going to get. I did it in a nice way. I didn't sit and go, "This is shit." Sorry, swearing.
Oh,
Sorry.
you should have been in the one that I was in before UK Drone Show, because that was pretty much the entire workshop.
Oh,
It was
really?
just everyone from like professional search and rescue people to like ex-military, like people who professionally protect festivals from drones and things like that.
Yeah.
To like all these sorts of people all just going around, this is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It was like that with the what is it, ESER or whatever.
EASA.
Yeah, EASA. And you remember I remember you being like stressed out and being like, at the end of it, being like, "Look, guys." The response, they were like, "Can you give us some feedback?" And the response was like, "No." And it was just like, "Can we please have something constructive? I know it's a general no from everyone, but can you just stop with the pitchforks and fire, please?"
And you know who ended up writing a lot of that was the CAA, and the French version of the CAA ended up working together on that as part of the European institutions. So there you go.
Wow, you would not have thought the old limeys and garlic chewers would have been don't share the same views would have been working together on that.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for all our French viewers.
It's
Opinions
all right.
expressed.
I used the word limeys as well.
You can insult your own, it's fine.
Yeah.
But
We have a bridge. We get along quite fine, thank you very much.
It's a
Tony's
tunnel.
very and anyway, Tony's French relations manager. Anyway, he says bonjour at the show every day.
Exactly.
We're not racist.
I don't think that counts. Anyway, I've been trying to segue and try and bring Dom into this, but I've been failing.
You did quite well because you were talking about protecting festivals from
Exactly.
drones.
I was trying to get there, but
Well, we could go from measured countenance of web design into countermeasures.
Well, I've been,
Channel Bridge.
I have been wanting to chip in on. I've just been listening with great interest because I haven't been keeping my finger on the pulse over the last couple of years. I picked up that registration was coming.
Have you been
and,
keeping your finger medically where Tony doesn't want it?
judging by the way you're rocking, you've got it there already, dude. Stop rocking. You're on camera.
wow.
But no, I've been
That's
listening
not my finger.
I've been listening with great interest to what you guys have been saying because I haven't followed the details of the registration and just from a sort of helicopter. Well, it's probably an inappropriate term, but from a sort of 10,000 foot view, it. I find it amazing that these sort of databases, at the end of the day, they're trying to create a fucking list. You know, and they've got design agencies and a stack of consultants, and everyone's making a pile of money, and no one in that stack flies. They're just shuffling paper.
Yeah, I asked if anyone.
And it's just disproportionate sticking plaster on a problem that's actually a cancer. That is this fear that someone's going to do something to a passenger jet, and everyone's going to go, "Oh damn, we didn't do anything."
God, I've missed you.
Just knee-jerk. Oh, sorry. Hello, Tony. But yeah, I get everyone being patient and being polite about it and going through the motions, but it's just the most incredibly disproportionate amount of money and effort just to say we did something, when actually, you know, given Gatwick, we don't know that anyone's done anything.
Oh,
ever.
he's mentioned the G word.
Oh man, I'm
we've
still
mentioned it
angry
already.
about that.
I want Frank to mention the H word as well. What he done?
What, hotel?
Oh yeah, we got a mention in Hacker Day. Hello,
Yeah,
if anyone's
yeah.
watching who's found out about us from Hacker Day.
Is that Jen?
Tell everyone what you did, Frank.
Oh, I posted. Well, so during the Heathrow incident, which was at the beginning of this month of January 2019, one evening, Heathrow was shut for like an hour, and that's terrible. And while it was still shut, there was all this hubbub about people taking pictures of things and posting them up, saying, "Oh look, there's blue flashing lights in the sky. These red and green and white flashing lights." And the BBC
Fucking
cameraman
aeroplane.
was like, "I definitely seen a drone hovering over Heathrow at this position at this time." And it was red and green and white flashing lights, and it was definitely a drone. And I was like, well, I had a look on the ADSB exchange, which is like so if you've seen Flight Radar 24, the website, which shows you the map of where all the planes are, what they're using there is a type of electronic conspicuity, which so a little transponder on each aircraft is beaming out saying, "I'm here at this position, and I'm me, and this is who I am." And anyone can tune into that with the right bit of kit and find out where everything is saying it is. So it's not really radar, but it's just kind of everyone posting their GPS coordinates out into the air. And ADSB Exchange is a website where all the hobbyists who have these bits of kit just post it out, publish it out onto the internet. And there was the police helicopter, was exactly where everyone was saying they were seeing red and green and white flashing lights. And if you don't know, police helicopter hovers and has red and green and white flashing lights, and had actually been there for about an hour.
And was it the Sun who was saying it was a drone? It was a drone or something.
Oh, everyone was saying it was a drone. Everyone,
No,
like
all the news, and
BBC,
everyone.
Sun, Telegraph, Guardian, everyone was like, "There's a drone. It's been seen. Everyone's got photos and video of a drone," and it's like, that's a police helicopter.
And you proved them wrong.
And I shared, I dug out the log of it and said when it was there from and to, and showed and just passed this on to Jenny at Hackaday, who has done some very nice balanced coverage of drone stuff in the past, and saying, can you show us the drone? And there you go.
Well done.
Drone.
I bet the sun won't pick
Big,
up that story, will they?
legal drone.
That is brilliant, Frank.
They're
I think
supposed to be there.
you deserve a medal.
None of the newspapers or the major media outlets will even dare to pick that up as a news item. Going, actually, we got it wrong.
Well, I mean, because the other thing that's happened recently was the article about the guy who was over Heathrow. Ooh,
Who's got the music?
Oh, we're getting a copyright strike there. Thank you,
Yeah,
Dom.
cheers, Dom.
Just got demonetised.
Right, there you owe us money, Dom.
Well done, Dom. Got rid of all the donations. Well done.
That's his license. Sorry. Yeah.
Not all of us have the PF whatever.
Yeah, I was on the show. I carry it with me wherever I am on the web. It's fine. You're licensed.
The musical views of Dom Robertson don't necessarily
No, sorry.
represent the show.
Surely that
I was trying to switch my sound deck on to give Andrew a round of applause.
wasn't that Tony's chance to get the sparklers out and give everyone a little dance? Was that?
He was having flashbacks of the 90s. Like he already started chewing in half his face off.
yeah.
Oh, the good old days. You miss them, Jack.
Yeah. But yeah, Dom. So now that you've squarely put yourself in the center of the spotlight, we brought you on because you've had some first-hand experience of how everyone's going to be enforcing all these rules.
Well, certainly discussion about it. I haven't had my hands on the kit. But the it was 2 years ago. Sort of at the tail end of Hidden Valley, I got asked to come and do a morning of a sort of scenario planning with a bunch of people in a highly secure location up in Birmingham area, which is in its own right comes into the story a bit later, which is kind of funny. And was another one of the other flyers in this sort of mini air show Hidden Valley circuit. Carl came along as well, and we were dumped into these scenarios with all these bods, which turned out to be, organizations which sell military stuff to each other and the police and all sorts of interesting people. And they put us in these scenarios saying, right, you want to disrupt an airport, you want to do this, that, and the other. And we threw some, what I would say would be improvised responses back at them. And we had like the sort of bosses of large companies. I don't know if I should name them or not, but large companies which fit bits to aeroplanes and make missiles and things like that.
Raytheon.
I'm not going to say any names. You can allude to what you want. Just shout them all out now, because if I don't say any,
NVDA,
we can do it by Venn diagram.
Mechanica, Kinetic.
Jack, read that thing out again.
Yeah, we're just gonna carpet bomb the names.
So they were saying, right, well, we'll just take control of that. Drone with our Dan Dare ray gun. And I was like, no, you won't. If you could, then it would be as simple as everyone else taking control of your missiles. Same system, same communications links. It's just the way it is. You don't have the compute power to brute force frequency hopping. You can't do it. You're decades and decades away from that sort of compute power. And they had to phone their CTOs and their bosses and whatever who were confirming this. And it was like, look, if you really want to fucking cause chaos, you can cause chaos. You can do it with a brick. You can do it with a fucking pair of pliers. It doesn't matter what you do it with. You can cause chaos, and you can throw as much regulation at this stuff as you want. But what you've really got to do is try to work out how to find the nutcases who are going to do that stuff. Not waste all the money, resource, and policing time just regulating everyone who adheres to the rules. It's completely upside down. The amount of people you've got trying to work out a system to register drones, you could pay 15 people to sit in an office around the country and just sit with everyone for 20 minutes and tick a box for them and give them a license. And it's done for 30 years. But of course the KPMGs and the Accentures and the big fucking consultancies want to leech as much money as they can in creating all that regulatory framework. And there you go, end rant. Moving on. Let's get back to flying.
Are you saying that technology isn't going to solve all the problems?
I just think it's misplaced, a misplaced focus. I think.
Don't think.
It's
Do you know where
driven-
you are? Do you know who you're talking to?
Don't know. I think
Every one of us here, like, surely technology solves everything, right, Curry?
FPV is not
Well,
illegal. Go
Doesn't
fly.
solve
This
my
whole-
insides. I'll tell you that much.
As far as I can see, this entire debacle about drones at airports has done a brilliant job of selling really expensive little ray gun things to airports that now say they can bring down
Nonsense.
drones,
They're
which
utter
don't exist.
nonsense.
But I don't think they can.
It's utter nonsense.
The most those systems can do now, the latest Israeli one, is just to disrupt the signal, which means
Yeah,
that
so exactly
it'll
the
just fail
scenario.
safe.
More dangerous. then.
Exactly the
It's just
scenario
gonna-
we played out 2 years ago was exactly that. And I just said, great, you've become my detonator.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and sit my device over the top of you, and when you knock it out, what's going to happen? It's going to fall and blow up.
This is it.
Brilliant.
If you can set a failsafe to return to home, you can also say failsafe explode. You
Sit
know,
there, whatever.
yeah, just do whatever. You know,
Just
complete
blow
the
up on
mission
impact.
for me.
You can do
Yeah.
it with sellotape. You know, it's just
But
ridiculous.
My point of this that I made weeks ago, and I dreamed it up in under a minute, like anybody could, that if somebody just bought $200 quads with a mission planner style thing, I wanted to fly them over Gatwick, they could do, because there would be no control signal. They'd just go, they'd remotely
You
land.
could knock out you could knock out British airspace with less than 80 quid's worth of stuff. You could totally knock out British airspace with less than 80 quid's worth of stuff, and there's nothing they could do about it.
Let's Drone Out is strongly saying don't do that.
I'm not putting that out as a DIY.
Discourage
but-
behaviour
but-
like that, and we do not approve of it.
We are
But
not a terrorist university.
No, not at all. And but my point is to deny that it's that simple. It's going back to all the drone registration. If their purpose is to educate, surely educating people to go and sign up for a drone registration is just as hard as educating people how to fly properly.
Exactly. I talked. To them
I don't
about,
get that in the first place.
I did talk to them about, you know, they're going to get two different responses as a whole. You're going to get those that are going to follow it completely, and every single little quad's going to have a little sticker on it with their number on it, and then you're going to get people that just are not going to bother at all.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't pop down to the post office before I went and disrupted British airspace. I will next time. You know, it's just ludicrous. It's just. I wish they'd spend more money on, you know, pushing drone use into STEM as a metaphor for education, and getting people flying because it interests them in engineering, and they want to go out and actually not take it beyond being a hobby and take it into something professional. You know.
Yeah, ecology
Most of
surveys.
the hackers I know, you know, Jack, I was looking at the jobs market locally for Jack, and the need for someone who can do electronic engineering commercially in Britain is so limited. But if he was working with people I know who are building consumer electronics out in Taiwan, loads of work. We could easily inspire that here, but not if we're wasting all our time building wireframes for stupid lists.
It's business.
Sorry to diss them, but, you know.
It is. No, it's business. It's business people and officials justifying their position and their salary in life.
Yeah.
It is.
I was seen to do something. Please vote for me.
Yeah.
Well, that is it, though. I think even in the government consultation response, I think they went as far as saying this will not stop an attack like the one on Gatwick. Not that there was one, but we have to be seen to do something anyway. So everybody admits that it's not going to do anything, but they're going to do it because that's what's expected of them. It would
So
seem.
British politics at the moment. That is so British politics.
Strong and
Best thing
stable.
is not to do anything. We'd better do something.
So when are you launching your prime ministerial campaign, Dom?
Never.
Oh God!
Fuck that, mate.
Please,
Okay.
no, please do
I've
it.
got, you'll know I've got 80 quid in my pocket.
It's
Can we bring down the system with 80 quid? The whole of Westminster just bring it down with 80 quid. I mean, it's needed
It's quite
right now.
It's quite a bet, isn't it? It's quite a bet, isn't it?
It reminds me of the bit in
Made me
Hitchhiker's
80
Guide
quid
to the
back.
Galaxy of the only people you should allow to run the place are the people who don't want to. Anyone who does want to run anything, they shouldn't be allowed to.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a bunch of Vogons, isn't it? Reciting political poetry across the benches from each other.
What was that book about, like pretending to be mad so you could go home from war?
Catch 22.
Yeah, it was
I
you,
thought-
isn't it? That conversation.
Just to finish the story, I mentioned it right at the beginning that the location. I couldn't go near mentioning where the location was, but it was a very, very secure facility. And I thought the irony of the whole thing was that there was I didn't sign
You let
anything.
us
to
in
do it.
here.
Yeah, I'll let you know about it. But no, was that I at the end of the meeting, they were talking about how they could secure any perimeter and they could, offer all these security controls about drones and so on. And I was commenting on how it was quite interesting being in such a secure facility because I'd walked in, gone through a weighbridge and a secure double secure gate. With a drone in my bag, and I hadn't had my bag searched. I hadn't, and I produced my drone and put it on the table. And I was like, "So yeah, I'm not really sure how much control you've got over these things, but I just bought one into your facility, and do you want to fly it?"
They all
They weren't keen on flying it. They offered me coffee and had a little polite laugh about it.
There's also the drones are one thing, but there's also a stonking great battery in there. Which,
Yeah,
That may
yeah.
or may not have been a battery.
That
if you
was
wanted
my
to cause some
favourite.
trouble,
That was my favourite story from Gatwick from the Guardian. They were talking about the drone activity, and they said it's been flying for 13 hours. So I replied to the Facebook story. The biggest story you're missing here is this battery technology that's enabling something to fly for 13 hours. Where is it? We need it. We need it. And the comments from stupid people underneath was just remarkable. I didn't bother replying to any of it.
It can't just fly for 13 hours. It can also fly in the dark and in the rain and in really good wind conditions. It's amazing. We all need one of these in our lives.
I know.
and it's invisible.
Mm.
So has
Yeah.
anyone got any film of the snow or the frost?
Ask Tony.
There must be somebody out flying
Oh,
in Chicago.
No, I haven't flown this year.
It snowed so much up north that Andy hasn't made it on tonight. So
Come
Yeah,
on,
the
I
internet
haven't-
connection's down.
Have we not got an
haven't-
outside broadcast from the snow somewhere?
It's not doing anything here. It's all in the channel anyway. I think it's missing us.
Well, Curry, you must have snow where you are.
No, I'm down south. There was snowed for about half an hour and then it turned to rain.
Yes, I thought you guys were going to get pummeled right now. Is
Hold
that
on a
what the
minute.
weather
I'm
was
just
saying?
having a little look because it was starting to snow when I started in
It's
here.
all pretend. There's
Yeah,
already been,
no, it's settling outside. Hold on, I need a camera for you. Wait,
Outside broadcast.
coming up.
there's schools that are saying they're closed
My
for
Bluetooth,
tomorrow, even before it comes up.
my Bluetooth might go completely bonkers.
Yeah,
You got a
okay.
camera there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
there
got a
isn't a
camera.
camera.
My Bluetooth might go bonkers on my headset, but
Let's present Dom.
there you go. Have you got snow? If I do that, because that
I
even
think we
in
can
fact-
just. Oh,
Hey!
Proper snow. Wow.
wow.
Did I just put my registration out on your webcast?
You did, yeah.
Maybe.
There'll be a police officer waiting for you tomorrow morning.
No, they won't. The car will be burnt and nicked.
Involved in one of those notorious scooter incidents I've heard so much about.
Yeah. Jack, what are you doing after this?
So, Dom, with all your going into secret facilities with drones and stuff, did you hear anything about detection? Was that mentioned at all?
No.
No.
Right,
That
detection's
seems.
up there. Detection's up there. You might be able to use some. I'd have thought at best you could use some AI to spot the difference between a flock and a single goose. But I think if you start shooting every single goose that flies across Gatwick, you're going to run into complaints
Well,
quite
I'll be
quickly.
back down there, won't I?
It'd be great fun
It's
taking
all
off just
right. It
looking at all
wasn't-
the corpses.
It's dead now, but it's all right. It wasn't registered.
But the thing is, like a flock of geese, like they could go into both engines of a 737.
A really close friend of mine's a 28-year EasyJet captain. He's long in the tooth, and he's quite a sort of.
He has our deepest sympathy.
He's often quite a good line because he got quite into what we were doing with the Valley and stuff. and was quite into drones, really, not at all daunted by them. But he does forward me the odd Balpa message, which is just like, someone stood beside the window of a cockpit and shot a cannon through a window and gone, there you go, somebody flew a Phantom through a jet airliner at 60,000 feet.
The whole Balpa, this is the British Airline Pilots Association.
It's the Daily Mail of mindset in flying.
They get one of their mates to get hold of an old windshield and then pretend the thing is a drone, and then they keep firing it faster and faster until it does something, and then go, see, it's dangerous. But
you guys talking about geese and shooting stuff, it just struck me as though we could have the best drone deterrent for airports. Just get a bunch of angry farmers on site permanently with 12-bore shotguns, just permanently on the lookout. Oh!
No, that was an easy jet.
Quick, put the farmer away.
It just seems weird to me that that seems like the more important thing, at least when it's still a relatively low frequency occurrence, because as far as we can tell hasn't happened. The important thing is to have a means of detecting a drone that is less likely to have false positives than just eyewitness accounts.
Well, they do have people out looking for birds and have means of scaring them. So presumably these guys are used to looking at small objects from a distance, and might be maybe they can cross-train into looking for drones.
But it's still, they've got to be, if there's a report of a drone, they've got to have been looking there to say, no, there wasn't. That's the problem, is proving that there wasn't a drone when someone says there was one.
All registered drones should have a piece of kryptonite sellotape through them so that they can be detected by Superman. There you go, sorted.
Well, that's as feasible as everything else that's been mentioned tonight. So,
what I've heard mentioned is that because all the radar that they have at airports is all quite long wavelength stuff, because A, it's cheaper, B, it's older, C, it's
lower power.
It's lower. It's all you need to do the things that when you've got massive airliners around, and that for something that would detect a drone would have to be a very new, quite expensive millimeter wave radar, and they don't want to pay for that just because on the off chance that there might be a drone at some point. But I would argue that it would then, like we were saying, also pick up a flock of geese, and they are a threat to aircraft as well. It would also pick up a bit of a carrier bag that's flown over the airport, and you could quite easily differentiate between a drone and a carrier bag with radar, because you can look at the Doppler effect and go, oh, look, it's staying in the same position, but it's something on it's moving extremely quickly backwards and forwards. It's probably a rotor. I think rather than spending all the money on everything else, if we just had something like that on there, that'd be a more reasonable way of spending the money. But
it certainly sounds useful, because right now you can shut an airport down simply with a phone call to say, I saw a drone, I did. Yeah. And that's it. It's better close it, better safe than sorry.
You just spent my 80 quid.
That's a lot of phone calls, that is.
Have you guys seen
just one right one, I'd have thought.
Have you guys seen Wyn Davies' suggestion of shutting down airports in the chat? So he's saying just strap red and green LEDs on a pigeon and let it loose.
Well, I've heard before that
that's my Christmas pigeon. That's no drone.
There's a type of fungus that grows on a particular species of owl that glows in the dark. So you end up with these owls flying around with glow in the dark spots on them.
Jack's got a foot powder that will kill that.
and that's been historically a cause of UFO reports. But
I have never heard of glow-in-the-dark owls.
Glow-in-the-dark owls.
It's like being on QI when Frank comes up with a special fact.
Well, it's Frank and Don together. I think we should send them off to the BBC and get them onto QI. Smartish.
Oh, don't. Frank's.
I've got no common sense. I'm going to have to get another beer now.
He swears as much as
to drink.
Yeah. Ooh. funky noises.
That was my Bluetooth going out in the snow.
Oh,
Look,
you should sample that.
Snow-covered beer.
I think if you
that's
sampled
nice.
it, Gadget
That's
would like
what's
that.
loaded.
Half our listeners don't know who Gadget is.
It doesn't matter.
None of our listeners know Gadget.
Who is
Oh.
Gadget?
The mysterious Gadget.
Mm.
Techno
Um,
DJ.
But
All right, should we call it there then?
I think, well, we've probably got about another 5 minutes because we started 10 minutes late. But depends.
Well, I have a general suggestion for a future thing that we might suggest, and this is these anti-drone companies with their special radar guns. That I've seen them demo it on, I think, little clips of demoing it on a Phantom, where I'm guessing someone there has flown a Phantom and said, "Fail safe, let's land." And so you get these guys saying, "Look, we're making it land." Why don't these guys ever say, "Okay, our anti-drone technology is amazing," and one of us hobbyists say, "Okay, I'll see if I can fly past you. I've got a range of quads that I'm going to set differently. Let's see how many times I can get from here to there without you taking me out."
They won't let you do it. They won't take that.
No.
Just, I thought you were going to say you'd seen the demonstrations on the Roadrunner cartoons, and I just immediately had pictures of Wile E. Coyote and the Acme Company. There we go, another
Acme
£2.5
Company.
million spent on counter-drone measures by Wile E. Coyote.
I think you should add one up it as well. Put an apple on the guy's head who's holding the gun, and your job is to knock the apple off, and his job is to shoot the drone down.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
Damn it! All we
Well,
want to
we
do is
should
race the damn
offer them
things.
a challenge and see if anyone responds.
So where's racing? Is anyone doing any indoor flying or anything these days? What's happening in the racing world?
Tony?
Flying.
Huh?
Tony's the only one that's really flying, I think, like that.
I haven't
Really
flown
isn't
yet this year.
But Ed and
Really?
Tony, you've both got, or you've both been at Dorking, right? Is that flyable at the moment?
It is flyable. We've just
Yes.
not been this year.
Ah,
What
Yeah.
about another tiny whoop in the sports hall down here?
Have you?
No, I'm just saying. What about doing another mini fly?
We could have a Let's Drone Out fly and invite everyone down to a sports hall.
Could
Go on,
be.
everyone would have to
Brighton.
chip in, wouldn't you?
Yeah, like
It's
Yeah.
just a collective fun. I'm seeing them on Monday. I'll find some dates.
Yeah, sounds
I'm
good.
not organising it. You guys can organise it.
I'm not organising it. Bagsy not organising it.
just about to say, poor Andrew.
No.
Excellent.
Tony's good at that.
Tony
stuff.
can do it. Yeah.
Well volunteered, Tony.
Yeah.
Pass.
It's too late.
I'm too far north.
I've got to organise our bloody Wales trip yet.
Do you know the best? Has anyone organised a race in the car park underneath the XL yet?
Not officially.
No, but I know. It has been flown. But has anyone organised a race down there? Because it's the most amazing space.
It is good space. Yeah.
Oh, well, we were in
Surely
the middle
they'd
of
let you do it,
Gatwick
like-
long-term car park.
I think the problem is that they consider it to be okay. If you want to use it, that'll be £500 per square meter, please.
Oh yeah, they're not cheap at XL.
Yeah, but you're using an unused car park. Just pay off. Say, could we sell 70 places of parking overnight for you in one block, and then use another bit?
Well, there is. You may be able to talk
You
to
must
the.
be able to blag the groundsman or something.
You might be able to talk to the UK.
Tony, we've got a job for you and your methods of persuasion.
Yeah, free
Someone
prostate
give me
examinations.
50 quid note and I'll sort it out.
There is the possibility of chatting to the UAV show organisers who hold their
Exactly.
UAV show once a year at XL.
Good thinking, Ed.
Yeah.
You just, I'm going to hang up now. Bye.
Yeah, whoever thought
Yeah,
it
that's a
must
good
do
point.
it.
I believe Dom might have some connections there.
Don, they're my client. I know the organisers. They're always after things, but getting their visitors to then go down to the car park, you might run the risk of the car park being more interesting than the actual UAV show itself.
Yeah.
You know, there'll be no one on the floor and all their tickets not being sold.
Because we were there.
Do it at 1 in the
it was
morning.
a couple of years ago, wasn't it? me and Jack and Carlos and Matt Evans. Was anyone else there that I've missed out there?
The other one to approach is
Do it at 1 in the morning.
the other one to approach is the
Seriously, do it at 1 in the morning.
one in the morning. The design center in Islington. There's
That one sounds good. That's like a 20-minute walk for me. So yes, please.
It's once a year there's an Android conference there, and they had last year just gone. They had Carlos and Matt Evans there doing demos, and all I could think was that space, if it was netted off properly, would be amazing drone racing. It'd be incredible there. Be good. But companies like that, all the tech companies, the big tech conference companies, they're the ones to talk to. They might even sponsor. So they might be able to get someone like that.
Let's rewind a bit. Does anyone want me to talk to the sports hall at the end of the road?
Yes, let's do that.
Another mini fly.
Yeah, that's far better. That's far. I like the mini fly idea.
It's something extortionate, like 45 or 50 quid an hour, but I'll see what I can blag out of him.
All right.
Well done, Tony.
Thanks, guys. You've been listening to Let's Drone Out. You've been joined by Andrew / Frank.
Goodbye.
Mr. Dom.
I don't know why.
And Ed Radcliffe.
Bon voyage.
And my little tone star.
Bonjour.
Curry Kitten.
Goodbye.
And I've been Jack Bright to the Fly. You've been listening to Let's Drone Out. Please like, subscribe, click the bell end. And if you've got any coffers, stick it in the old Patreons.
Thanks to our Patreons as well.
And a massive thank you to our Patreons for helping this show stay on the air and not make Andrew / Frank want to kill me. Thank you and good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.